Hi there. So, good morning and good evening. So, we are in session number 16 today, and we are going to cover the chapter called data visualizations in today's session. And before we start the today's topic, as we do always, let's do a quick recap of what we have learned in the last session. So the last session it was purely on the databases. Mostly, we have covered the concepts of RDBMS, which is abbreviated as Relational Database Management System. And in the RDBMS world, we have licensed and open source database softwares available in the market. The very famous licensed versions are Oracle and Microsoft SQL, but MS SQL it is also called. But for the open source, the famous and most popular databases are Postgres, MySQL, and SQLite. So SQLite is something that you can find mostly as a backend databases for your mobile applications because it is simple, light, and it can go on very lighter data modules. Actually, that's the reason. So, but when it comes to Postgres and MySQL, you will find a lot of web applications developed over these databases as well. This is the reality. So, but what we have learned in the last session is installed a Postgres database, and from the PG admin console, which is like a IDE to interact with the database, that comes by the default installation along with the PG Postgres installation. So we have seen how to create a table from that console, how to check your tables from that console, etc. And very importantly, the lesson that we have learned last session is how to do the same thing from your Python console. To do this, we have taken two ways to achieve this. One, basically using the SQL Alchemy way, and the other way is using Psycho PG2 way. So when I say Psycho PG2 way, that was when we created a connection, we created a cursor, then we had to write an SQL kind of queries inside the execute command. Then we had commit issues, right? Intermittent commit issues. That is where I basically do not prefer using that method. Instead, we have learned how to do it using SQL Alchemy method. So when we used SQL Alchemy method, it was directly with the help of the pandas that we have been able to directly insert data into the database, directly get the data from the table inside the database without even writing an SQL, right? We just used read table from SQL, or we have also used to underscore SQL to write data into the database. So as simple as that. That's the best way to deal with, because inside the problem with the PsychoPG2 way is the data when you read from the table will be in the form of a list, and each row is in the form of a tuple. But it is very hard to basically digest, right? Because inside the database, it is in the form of a table, rows and columns. But when you read it into the Python, it is in the form of a list, and each element is a tuple. So the best help for you is to use pandas. So automatically when you read the data into the pandas data frame, it is in the form of a table. You can directly relate it with the true database structure. That's where the advantage lies. This is what we have covered in the last session. Okay. Today we are going to cover another very, very important topic in case if somebody wants to get into the data analytics as a career. This becomes very important. In case not, then this doesn't even come to you at all anytime, right? If you want to get into data analytics, data science, machine learning, AI, ML, so if these are your areas of interest in the future, so definitely this is one of the biggest topic actually. But as I told you, the databases was also the biggest one, but then we have covered everything that is needed for you as an introduction. So we're also going to do the same thing here. Okay, so we are going to cover basically the three important visuals. I should call it four important visualizations, which is common across any analytical dashboards that you see. You go to COVID dashboard today. So let me go to one of the COVID because that is the one that anybody understands at this point of time. So I go here. I'm trying to basically help you understand the definition of a visualization. So you see here, this chart is called line chart. Okay, so this is a visualization. So I'm going to click on any of the countries, for example, USA. Then we have few more chats. I should see here. Why am I not able to see? Okay, here, yeah. See, in the bottom, this is a line chart. That means everything is in the form of a line. This is one visualization. We are going to draw similar visualization on our system now. Okay. And then we have something called daily new cases. This is a bar chart. See, this particular chart is a combo of a bar chart and a line chart both. We are going to see how to do this today. And again, there is a line chart. Again, there is a line chart. So on and so forth, right? So that's it. So we are going to achieve the same thing today. How to draw the same things from our, Python shell. Okay, that's the interesting thing. And in case, because I'm from India, there is another thing that very interesting chats that you have in this particular website, like covidindia.org. See, you have a map chart. On the map also you can draw these things and you can visually show something. But we are not going to cover that here in this today's session, but something like this. See, we have something called daily, and let me get to all states. And these are the counts looking like. Let me make it uniform and last 1 month, for example. See the bar chart? These are all the bar charts. So we are going to learn how to draw bar charts, how to draw line charts, how to draw histograms, and how to draw pie charts. Okay. So in case if you have, forgot what is a pie chart, I'm also going to help you with that. Once you see the visualization, you will understand what is it. So let's quickly get into that. I think probably you now got the concepts of what is the definition of data visualizations. Data visualizations is nothing but a pictorial or a graphical representation of metrics or the data that you have, so that it is easily consumable by public or the user actually. And very importantly, the another chart that we are also going to cover today is word cloud. When I say word cloud, for example, I wanted to basically know in the technical world like Python and R and Scala, Ruby, etc. Which one is the most widely used programming language? One of the solutions that I can think about is go get the Twitter tweets and then count how many times Python is available, count how many times R is available, similarly count how many times Scala is available, etc. Now when I basically say how many times the count, the highest the count, that is the topmost programming language, right? That is the one of the ways to look at. But how do you visually look at that in the form of a word cloud? We are also going to see that today. Okay. So let's get into the session today, to develop a charts for you as a visualization. And another important topic before I start here is visualizations by itself, as I just described, it's a profession. So there's a lot of scope for you to, learn a lot than what we are going to cover in today's session. But I'll try to make sure that your fundamentals are, thoroughly understandable. So if this is your area of interest, please consider this as a platform to learn the next. Okay. So I'm using pandas here. I don't think you guys would need some introduction about this. So I'm using pandas, and before that, please hold for a while because I'm basically getting into my key maps. For the key maps, I wanted to say execute selection. So this is the one I'm adding a shortcut. I somehow lost it. So let's remove that and then, okay, cool. So now let me see if I can get into my Python console. I'll stop it, reload it so that on safe side. Yeah, now my shortcuts are working. Cool. So now I'm loading some data that I have got in the form of a CSV file into my kernel. And I'm calling it as Oracle read data. I'm sure, you guys have learned in the pandas session what is this read underscore CSV does. It basically reads the data which is in the form of a comma separated value file from your from your operating system location, wherever directory it is, to the data frame variable inside the Python. Now in this shell, I basically copied this file, but let me explain you what is this file all about. So I have a gaming, industries data where you have the information about, you see, double click it. You have the customer ID here. You have which city he belongs to in the form of ones and twos. How many number of children that user has. What is the minimum age of the child and what is the maximum age of the child that he has got. And since how long he is on the gaming platform, since last 2-10 days. And what is the frequency of purchases that he does on the platform, right? At what frequency he keeps purchasing games on my website. This is the data. How many number of units he has purchased so far. And what is the frequency of play, how frequent he keeps playing games on my platform, so on and so forth. So this is the data that I have got, which is nothing but around 4,000. I'm sorry, it is not 4,000. Let me basically do it here. It is more than that if I'm not wrong. Or skill read data. So if you see 3,000, it is less than that. Sorry for that. 3,209 customers data I have got in the CSV file. You might ask me where did I get it from? It is readily available in a few of the websites where you can go and download the data sets. Okay, I just got it from there so that you will feel the real time, real data to draw some visuals on the screen, right? That's the reason I brought it from there. All right, so having said this, let me close this data. Now I pull the data into the data frame so I can read the data here as well in the form of a table. See, this is a customer ID. This is the city he belongs to. How many number of children they have. What is the minimum age? What is the maximum age of the child that they have? What is the frequency of purchases? How many games he played so far, right? What is the channel of transaction? And total revenue. Consider this is in dollars. He basically bought so far $107.51 worth of games on my platform. I can read it like this. Okay. So considering this is the data, now the first task for me is to basically plot a histogram. So let me give you a definition of histogram. Histogram definition is nothing but, for example, I have data of 10 cities from India. Okay. In each of the city, I basically wants to, it is in the form of this structure. Let's take the hypothesis like this. City Hyderabad, there is a user 1. Okay. City same Hyderabad, there is user 2. City same Hyderabad, there is another user called user 3. I have other details of the user also, for example. And another city called, Bangalore, we have another user called 4. In Bangalore, another user called, 5. Right? So on and so forth. Now, when I also write another city called Chennai, you have only one user. Another city called Mumbai, I have again, one user. Now, when I plot a histogram for this, what is my histogram? The histogram is nothing but the counts of users. If the counts of the users is my histogram, right? It will basically, counts of Hyderabad or counts of location is my histogram, which is nothing but the counts of users in each of the city. So what should be my histogram looking like? Hyderabad value is 3. Bangalore value is 2. Chennai value is 1. Mumbai value is 1. That is going to be my histogram. So histogram is nothing but, histogram can be drawn only on one single column. The y-axis is the count of the data. As simple as that. How many times in this particular column Hyderabad has repeated? How many times Bangalore has been repeated? It is also called as distribution. The data distribution that you have inside the data, that inside the table, if you can call. Now, this is the definition of, I'll put this in the comments so that you understand when you refer it. Now, in this customer data, I basically want to see a histogram of, for example, let me open this up. I wanted to see how many distinct cities do I have, and for each of the cities, how many number of customers do I have in each of the city. The city is the column, which is the second column here in the data frame. And each city, for example, there is city number 1, city number 2, might be city number 3, might be city number 4, I don't know. But I wanted to know in each of these cities, how many users exist in the form of a visual, in the form of a chat. Now I'm going to use my histogram. So to do that, we always import libraries, right? So just say import matplotlib dot pipe plot. Now you guys are very aware of what is this syntax. When I say matplotlib dot pipeplot, it is nothing but matplotlib is a package. Inside that package, there is a module called pipeplot. That is nothing but this pipeplot will be a Python file. Okay. So in case if you want to double check that, if you are using Mac, press your command, hover on it, click on it. If you are using Windows, click on Control and hover on it and click on this. You see pipeplot.py is a file. And matplotlib, if you see, this is a directory. In the chapter called modules and packages, we have learned this, right? This is a package and this is a module. So to import a module inside the package, so the syntax is the same thing that I wrote here. Okay. By chance, in case if this is not available on your system, please go and do a pip install. Okay. So just say pip install matplotlib. It will install all the packages, all the modules which are available for that package onto your system. As always, pip3 install matplotlib. So this is a package that will help you to draw all the visualizations for today's session. So just for the sake of usability, I'm just aliasing it as PLT, so that everywhere instead of me typing this completely, I can start using this one as an alias. I load this on my system. Okay. So now I wanted to plot a histogram. Inside this module called pipeplot, there is a function called hist, is the histogram, inside which I have to pass in which column I have to draw a histogram of. So as I discussed, inside this particular data frame, there is a column called city. I wanted to draw histogram of that city. Now let me execute this. See something on the screen. See, very surprisingly, I have almost 2,800 or 2,900 of customers from one city, and there is no customer in any other cities. There are only two cities in my complete database. City number 1 and city number 2, and city number 2 is around 400 or 300. See, visually, I need not basically go and count all the records, write some program. But visually, if I wanted to basically see in which city my most customers exist, see, this is a very simple histogram that I just wrote. Similarly, let's pick any other column in this and draw another histogram. For example, I wanted to draw a histogram of, let's take the text here, favorite channel of transaction or favorite game. What is his favorite game? How many different types of games I have, and what is the distribution of data? How many counts of customers each of the favorite game has? Similarly, let me come back here. I'm copy pasting this because I just have this. So what is the column name? F uppercase favorite game. So favorite, typo, favorite game. Okay. So now let me plot this. You see, again, surprisingly, in the complete 3,200 customer information, I only have mostly 3,000 customers. Basically, favorite game is called uniform. The only, around 200 customers favorite game is called favorite. That is how my data is inside the database. Okay. Now what happens when you basically do a histogram of on a column called numbers, for example, children. So let me draw histogram on this. So I will understand how many customers have got one child, how many customers has got two child, how many customers has got 3 children, 4 children, so on and so forth. Right? So let me check that. So number of children. So if I now execute this, see. So the customers with around, one child is more than 800. Customers with 2 childs are around 1,500. Customers with 3 childs are 600. Customers with 4 childs, so on and so forth. So my major chunk of customers have 2 children. That is what I can take the insight from this histogram directly on the screen. That is where visualizations are so powerful. Okay. Now you can control these visualizations. You can change the color of this histogram. You can basically add see how blunt this particular figure is, right? You don't have an x-axis. There is no name given to x-axis. There is no name given to y-axis, right? This color is blue. You don't have control of changing. I mean, you wanted to change the color. Probably you also wanted to draw lines here, as we have just seen on the websites, right? In case if you wanted to do all of this, it is all possible. So let me show you how. So for example, I wanted to basically add a x-axis label. So I wanted to call this label as number of children, so that on the chat also, somebody when they read the chat, they understand that definition. So I'll copy paste it because it is already, I wrote it here. Okay, so in the same thing, pyplot module, there is something called x label, and I call it as number of children. And font size, I'm saying keep the font size as 15. I can also reduce this or increase this. It is in your control. And why it is nothing but frequency, I can also call it as counts. Now see the very important thing is, when you basically add the attributes of the chat after plotting it, you have to select all these three together and then execute them, so that you will see the change right on the screen like this. See, earlier there was no name given to the x-axis, now the name is given. Earlier there was no name given to the y-axis, now it is given. Cool. And as I told you, you can also control the title of the this one as well. There is no title given to the plot, right? I can also say plot dot title. There is some function called title, and inside this just say it is histogram of children. Okay, so now I basically execute all of these 4 lines together. So what happens? The title, that means the name of the plot, is also there for you here. This is how you plot histogram. So for histogram, the very important thing is you need only one input, one column as an input, and inside that column, how many number of distinct values are there and how many counts of each of the value is what you see as a histogram. Cool. Let's move forward with your bar chart. So when it comes to bar chart, you need 2 values at least. What is your x-axis value and what is the y-axis value corresponding to the same thing. So let's pick 2 things here. For example, let's call about, okay. So for each customer ID, I just wanted to see how much revenue he made in the form of a bar chart. Okay. So let's do that here. Okay, here. Plot dot another in the same module, another function you have called bar. So it needs x-axis to be given first. So _read data. Okay, and the column name is nothing but, what is my x column? Customer ID. And I wanted to see on the y-axis same read data. I'm sorry. Read data, but I wanted to see what is the column name? Total revenue generated. Revenue generated. Okay. So now let me plot this. Let's see what does it say. So you see here, because there are around customers of 3,200 customers are there. That's the reason you see the figure like this. See? So there is a customer with somewhere ID called 3,900 or something. He made a revenue to the company around $1,000. But whereas other customers are around $400 to $800, right? There are customers with very, very least revenue as well, which is like the darkest here. But there are customers above $500. There is only one customer who made close to $1,000 business to the company. So this is a bar chart. So in case if I don't want, it is all up to us what should be the data on the x-axis, what should be the data on the y-axis. Again, there is no label given to this chart. There is no label given to the x-axis. There is no label given to the y-axis. And there is no title given, right? You can all control that one also. Okay, I'm not going into it because we have already done for the histogram. Now we understand for drawing a bar chart, you need an x-axis, you need a y-axis. What we have seen in the COVID websites, on the COVID websites now, is x-axis is your date. On a daily basis, day 1, how many number of new cases have been identified? That number of new cases is your y value. Day 2, another y value. Day 3, another y value. It has been plotted in the form of a bar chart. That is where you see the bar chart on the COVID websites today. Okay, cool. And I have similarly, you can add a label to it. I'm not going into it because we've already covered. Similarly, the same chart, in case if you want to convert, you're not comfortable with the bar chart, instead you're comfortable with the line chart. So very simple, in the same module, there is something called line, right? So, I'm sorry, there is something called plot because that is the default one actually. And in here, I have to again just copy paste what is the customer ID and what is the revenue generated. So let me copy paste this, execute. Okay. Sorry. I think plot basically does this. But what happens is, let me tell you. Okay. So this is a line chart only, believe me. But what happened is, the first value is around 400, second value dropped. So that's the reason you are seeing this data. So instead, let me basically extract only few data sets from this complete data frame. And then we will see how the plot looks like. Okay. So let me say, for example, orskill underscore df2 is equals to orskill read everything. Okay. Everything 0 to 2. Okay, so let's see this. So I have only 2 records, right? So let me pull few more records, for example 10 records. Okay, so let me plot the same thing for only 10 customers. Let's see how does my line chart looks like. So instead of the original data frame, I basically take this data frame. Now I plot this. See the line chart, now it is clear, right? Because of the volume of data, we are not able to see the line in the previous chart. Now I changed it to this so that it is visible clearly to you on the screen. So if you're not comfortable to look at the bar chart, if it is a line chart, basically when do we go with the bar chart versus when do we go with the line chart is nothing but if the y value is a continuous variable like numbers, we go with the line chart. If the y value is a discrete variable, which is nothing but counts of it, frequency of it, etc., we go with bar chart. Okay, so that is where the difference is. And because this is revenue is a continuous variable, right? That's the reason it is good to basically have a line chart instead of bar chart. Okay, cool. If you wanted to do a scatter plot also, scatter plot are nothing but dots. So instead of line, if you wanted to just get a dot, you can also get that like this. See, customer 1 revenue is this, whereas customer 2 revenue went up to $350, so on and so forth. Instead of a line, if you want to just click dots, you can also do that, magic. All right, line charts is done. The next one is pie charts. Before I execute a pie chart program, I wanted to basically let you know when do you basically use a pie chart. Okay, so for example, I should not take this because the situation outside is COVID, and probably you guys must have been reviewing the websites daily, and it's easy for me to basically explain. So I'm sorry to take this example, but still, for example, you have a city in which there are 100 cases. Of these 100 cases, how many recovered and how many are active? Okay, I will not take the example of deceased, but but let's take in a city of 100 cases, you wanted to basically see how many of the people are recovered and how many people are active. For example, 80% of the people are recovered and 20% is active. You wanted to see that in the form of a pie chart so that it's easily consumable, right? So what will I say? In the numbers, some variable called enum, I say of the city which you have 100 cases, 80 of them are recovered and 20 are still active. Now I wanted to plot a pie chart with these numbers. So pi of this num. See what happens. I'm sorry, I have to execute the one above as well. So you see, so this clearly says out of the 100, whatever is the volume that you have, 80% of it is blue and 20% of it is your orange. In case if this changes to some any other number, for example 90, and then it becomes 10, then you see, I'm sorry, you see this squeezes. So it is pictorially easy to understand somebody out of the total 100% of the data, how is the distribution of each and every element inside that. That is when you basically use pie charts. Okay, I have another example. For example, 3, 7, 8, 6. If this is your numbers file, you have total of what? This is 10 and then you have 14, 24. Out of 24, 3 is how much of 24? 7 is what percentage of 24? 8 is what percentage of 24, so on and so forth. You see, it looks like this. And pie charts can have, again, as I told you, you can have percentages also on the screen. And in case if you want to add percentages, you can directly go copy paste this. See, this is 12.5%, this is 25%, 33%, 29.2%, etc. How is this made available for you? Because of another value that I said. Calculate an auto percentage value, which is in the form of 1, only show 1 decimal. That is the format. So that's the reason you got 1 decimal here. Okay. And the radius is 1.2. So the complete radius of this pie chart I can define. Okay. And then I am also telling shadow true. That's the reason you see a shadow of the pie chart. It is up to us how visually best you wanted to look your pie chart on the screen. Okay. So this is pie chart. So what we have covered: histogram, bar chart, scatter plot, line chart, and then pie. Now the last and very, very interesting thing is word cloud. Okay, so let's do a word cloud now. So for this, I basically copied some, the text from the matplotlib website. And I'm sorry, in case if you want to basically get help, this is the one, matplotlib.org. You get all the documentation help here in case if you want to try something very different in the libraries. Okay, so you can make the best use of it. And we are covering only matplotlib library in this session, but there is another new important library which helps for the visualizations in Python as well. That is nothing but Seaborn. Seaborn, please remember this. Once you are very, very comfortable of using matplotlib, then you go and try Seaborn. Then you will also understand all the terminologies in Seaborn. Seaborn is much more visually effective. That has evolved very recently. Okay, so my advice is first learn everything about matplotlib. Once you are very comfortable, you feel you are done, try to replicate the same charts using Seaborn. That's the way to learn Seaborn as well. Okay, so these two links I pasted in the file as well. You can go refer them later. So I just copied this from that website. Now I wanted to basically count how many times data is repeated in this particular text. How many times technique is repeated, how many times the is repeated, how many times word is repeated, how many times cloud is repeated, etc. So on and so forth visually. So the very, you might have seen this visual definitely in any of the websites or hoardings outside, but let's do it. Okay, so I have this variable called text. The text, if you see, open it. This is nothing but everything that I just wrote. Now I wanted to see which one has, which is the most widely or number of times used word in this complete string. For this, I need a package called word cloud. So I'm going to install along with you guys here on the screen. So I would say pip3 install a package called word cloud. Okay, so it's installing for me. It is done. Now let me come back to my Python console and load this word cloud. From the word cloud, I only need two things called word cloud in the uppercase and then stop words. These are the two things. I'm just doing it. So what are the stop words? Stop words are nothing but, in the, there are a lot of things called since, I, there, who, again, I, etc., etc. These are stop words. I should not basically count the stop words, right? If I start counting the stop words, those words count will be very, very high in any given paragraph. The repeats most number of times in the paragraph, but that is not my area of interest. I have to basically exclude them, right? Like if, or, as, etc., etc. So this is already there in this package so that I can basically remove them. Okay. So what I'm doing here is, what happened? Okay. So let me come back to this. Okay. I think it got stuck again. Oh, come on, respond. Okay, responded. Thank God. So what I'm doing here is, in any of the cloud, word cloud project, there might be upper cases and lower cases. We basically convert everything into lowercase so that we are not differentiating an uppercase word with a lowercase word as two different words. So I'm basically splitting them into each and every text into a list, and then I'm converting everything into a lowercase. And after the lowercase conversion of each and every element of the list, I'm joining everything together to form a string again. So my output, this one, is nothing but the same thing that I have passed as an input. See, the text and this variable is one and the same. But the only thing is I converted everything into the lowercase and I have attached it. Okay. Cool. Then what I do, I basically generate each word, right? How many times it has been repeated. So using this function called word cloud dot generate, I pass this converted variable text, and then what does it do? Okay, it again stuck. Come on, don't do this. Yeah, thank God. So generated, it has generated for me. Now I would say the word cloud that you have generated, show it, but I'm calling it, don't show me axis, show me a tight layout so that it is everything in one single screen. And I am show is the one. This is the one that is going to generate a word cloud for you. Okay. So these are the attributes. I'm saying show it in a 8x8 pixel size. That's it. Okay. So now let me execute this piece. See, in this complete text that we have passed in, the most widely preferred word is cloud. The next number of times the word repeated was word. After that it was data. After that it was used. After that it was technique. After that it was visualization. So it is clearly visible, right? The least number of times a word has been used is something called matplotlib or modules or generating or needed. Right? This is called word cloud. And if you see, surprisingly, the stop words are removed. The is not shown in this word cloud. Is not shown in the cloud. As is not shown in the cloud because it automatically removes the stop words. But I have got the stop words onto the screen so that you guys understand what is stop words, and I don't want them on my word cloud. Else, stop words are going to be the most frequently used words. That's why. Okay. So with this, whatever I have thought of to cover with respect to the data visualization chapter is done. I am okay to now take any questions that you have before I conclude this session. Why is this error? Some line is an error. So as you guys try to question me, I basically try to see where is the error here. Okay. I don't see a red line. Any questions, guys? Okay. So if no questions, then thank you. Thanks for your time today. So we'll meet in the next session where we are going to cover the last topic to discuss, that is logging. and notification. And after that, the session is going to be a pure hands-on, and that is going to be the last session of this course. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.